Good afternoon. Welcome to a special edition of Blood Tribe Elections Live, Episode 6. I'm Vernon J. Chief Moon, and my co-host is Robin Littlebear, and welcome to Blood Tribe Elections Live. Today's show is all about getting to know some of our candidates running for Chief and Council, and to give them that chance to share their platforms safely with all of you due to COVID-19, especially after yesterday's numbers of 902 new cases in Alberta. Yeah, we have to definitely do our best to protect our elders and our immune compromised and our community. And that's the way we are doing this broadcast. That's why we're doing this broadcast daily. In a leadership role, we have to help one another, and that's what we are all doing today on Facebook. You can watch us on Facebook Live in the elections page. And let me just pull up the YouTube credentials here. And on YouTube, you could watch us under Blood Tribe Elections. And you could watch us on your Shaw box by using your remote, pressing the microphone, saying Blood Tribe Elections YouTube, or on channel 322 on your TELUS box. Before we introduce today's guests, Robin, I know it's a big thing on Facebook about road conditions on the Blood Reserve, people being snowed in. Do we have any details on that?
Yes, maybe a couple of updates. Certainly our Public Works Department is working really hard to get our roads opened up. They're really battling the wind these past few days. And there is an update, a road report update coming out very shortly on the Blood Tribe Communications page. So please go to that page if you want to see the up and coming road report coming out very soon. Just a reminder to everybody, stay safe. I know there's starting to be some food and water issues out there. Continue to call the Blood Tribe Public Works Department and get your name on the list there. Stay safe, everybody.
Yeah, definitely stay safe, guys. And if you're older, try to avoid digging the snow. You don't want to hurt yourself. We want everybody to be safe, okay? So today's guests are Leanne Johnson, Chief Candidate. She'll be talking to us shortly. Our second, did I say contestant? I meant to say candidate if I said contestant. So Leanne Johnson's our first candidate speaking with us today. Our second candidate is Calvin Preston, Crow-Chief. He's number 18 on the ballot. He's running for a council seat. And our third candidate for tonight is Incumbent Roy Fox. Chief Incumbent, I should say, and he's running for the Chief candidate as well. So we'll turn it over to Robin and introduce our first guest.
Okay, everybody. We have two Chief candidates today, so we're really excited to have them come on our show today. It's the first time we're going to hear from them, so I'm looking forward to hearing their platforms, just like you guys. Our first speaker and our first Chief candidate this afternoon, is Leanne Healy Johnson. Leanne, please tell the viewers a little bit about yourself and share your platform with everybody. The floor is yours.
Okay. I'm very thankful I was able to join this forum, and I'd like to thank Vernon and Robin and everybody behind the scenes for making this possible. And I'd like to say that to all the candidates that I wish them all the best. And I've heard some forums, and we have some very smart, innovative people running, and I'm so flabbergasted that there is
Leanne, I think your feed has froze there. Can you hear us, Leanne? Just bear with us a second here. Leanne, can you hear me?
Yes.
Maybe start from the start there. Your internet kind of cut out, so just introduce yourself.
Did it?
Yeah, but you're good now, so.
Okay. I just wanted to start off by congratulating Vernon and Robin for all the work they've done. There's a lot of work involved in this, and I'm honored to be a part of this forum today. And I just wanted to say to all the candidates that I wish them the best. And I'm very proud of our women stepping up and going for this candidacy in Chief or Council. And so I'll start off by introducing myself. Nisto ako na tuihpi. In English, that means holy dancer. And Robin said that she mentioned my name there, Leanne Healy Johnson, and I was born on the Blood Reserve, born and raised. I went to school at St. Mary's. I completed my grade 12 there, and I went on to attend Lethbridge Community College and the U of L, University of Lethbridge, and I graduated with a degree in nursing. My husband is Hugo Johnson Jr., and he is a member of the Blackfeet Nation in Montana. I have 3 beautiful daughters. Cheyenne, Dylan, and Zoe are my twins, and I'm sisters to many. My parents, clan members on my dad's side, Stan Healy, is many tumors, agax and mags. And on my mother's side is Ispskunakiks, shooting in the air, and that's the Sweet Grass clan. I'm fluent in Blackfoot, but I'll mainly speak in English because we have, of course, we know we have some cultural, problems with language, and so I'll mainly speak in, and that is language. Currently, I'm employed with as a nurse in Indigenous opioid harm reduction. And I have learned so much about that, and I'll share that with you later on. But I wanted to start off with I'm going to talk about the social determinants of health, and that is one of my platforms. And under that social determinants of health, there is many avenues that touches our what determines our health. But I'm going to mainly focus on 3 today. And I'll just quickly go over some of the social determinants of health, and that is income and employment, tradition, education, food security, housing, clean water and air, safe, effective health care, social support, spirituality, safe communities, safe neighborhoods, language and culture. So those are just some of the determinants of what determines a person's health. If one of these are affected, it certainly affects our community. And so I'm going to basically talk about the 3 basic needs of a community to be healthy, to thrive. And that is food security, clean water and air, and shelter. I'm just going to have a drink here. Okay, so those 3 items are very important, not just to our community, but in every community. So let's, for example, food security. So everybody needs food to live. So my focus on that is self-sufficiency. Self-sufficiency means having or expanding our current community gardens. Teaching, not just developing, but teaching it also at our college, or encourage the people to learn. Encourage the hunting and the meat processing and so we can be self-sufficient when it comes to buying meat and that produce. Also, having meat lockers to store the item, like the produce that they hunted, or if they raised their own cow, they can have a meat lockers so they can store their meat and wrap them and have them ready for their own use. Grocery warehouse would be so much better, because the more you buy in bulk, it costs so much less. And if we had a warehouse where we can purchase our own dry goods, etc., we would benefit, our families would benefit from that, because we're not spending all our money at Walmart. Just kidding. And having in that warehouse, having a canning facility where people can come and do their own canning, or if they don't know how to can, they'll have help there. But those are some of the items under food security, and I'm sure there's many items that they're out there that people that our community can help develop and become. If it's a vision, once you have that vision, we work toward that, and I know our community can do that, because we're innovative people, and we are resilient, and I think when we start working together, things happen, and for the good of our community and our children, which are our future. I'm going to talk now. The second item I'm going to talk about is clean water and air. I never thought there would come a day when I had to pay for water, but it did. And it should not be a commodity. It should be. It's used for cleansing as well. So I really believe that we really need a complete infrastructure for every person that lives on the reserve and off the reserve. Infrastructure means water and sewer. So everybody has indoor plumbing, continuous water flow. If Calgary can support over 1 million people, I'm sure our reserve can do the same. And that infrastructure is so important to basic lives, to maintain a basic lives. Environment. We want that sustainable clean water. And we have to do a lot of research. We have a lot of smart people in our community that are able to research into this for our own use. And the environment, which is I'm talking about, like fracking. Fracking is coal mining and waste management. Waste management is a big item for me, because we need to beautify our reserve, and when we are
the volume.
Hello, and I think waste management on our reserve needs a total upgrade, and I see there's potential there. We have our departments, and we have our staff there, and we need to just really focus on that, because that's important. Okay, so now I'll go to the third item, which is shelter. And shelter is very important for people to be happy and have hope, and because that's where our lives, our hope and our spirit lives, is in our home. And when you don't have a home, you have no hope. So shelter. I've heard are homeless, and our homeless are destitute. And our homeless most of them have addictions. And that's a whole other story in mental health. And I'll just give you a brief example of one. Because the reason why some people reach for addiction, they're reaching out for a little bit of happiness. And by using drugs or opioids, it opens the window for a little bit of happiness for them. So that is addictions. The other shelter is our communities. We want to have safe communities, especially the ones that live in large group of houses in like Standoff and Laverne. And having a safe environment is really important. And we have a lot of problems with like breaking and enter and stealing. And if we have a safe environment, I think people are happier, because right now they're not happy because their environment is not safe. Landscaping is one of them. Beautifying our communities, encouraging pride and respect for each other and where we live. And as Nichitapi, we're supposed to be caretakers of Mother Earth. And I think we need to start someplace. And if you live in a clean, beautiful environment, you're a happier person. And all these items, they're just a few items I have I've mentioned. All these items bring economic development, small business and jobs for our people. So this is very important to be self-developing. We buy from our own people, and that's how you keep the money in the system, in our system. Instead, millions of dollars go off the reserve, and it's making other people, the people that have their small business, Walmart and all that. And also I want to mention the housing. Housing is very important, like I mentioned, to us, but when you have housing issues on and off reserve, there's certain items that bother me, such as families, combined families, people that are working off the reserve. They're having to pay rent, which is like $1,000 to $2,000 a month, and which they can be paying to their own house. If they and the rent is so much more expensive than paying a mortgage. So giving people opportunity to be able to rent to own is a good option. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the housing on the reserve. Some new houses have been built, and they don't pass inspection. You know, these issues need to be addressed, because it's very important that these houses are built to code. And the other thing I wanted to say, a lot of us work off the reserve. The majority of the people live off the reserve because there's no housing on the reserve, or they lack support in obtaining to mortgage their own house on the reserve, or to do a collateral mortgage for a mobile home. That's a part of oppression. We're still oppressing our people, and we need to encourage them. They want to progress, but the progress stops someplace when you don't have communication and follow-up. Okay, so I'm going to stop there. I think I maybe passed some time here. I better rush. So anyway, so all these, like I said, all these will bring the community employment and business and economic development. So when these needs are met, it has a great impact on our people because it brings new hope for the future. New hope brings happiness to the people. When your people are happy, we have progress. Happiness brings progress and a progressive mindset. And then these changes, we need to work together to help each other, not work against each other. And so, need to be because you go out there with all that's happening to us since the Europeans came. So a lot of trauma has happened, and we're still working on that. And the only way we're going to change that is through our children. And so when a community is happy, we have hope, and families stay together and work together because everything trickles down to the children. The children are taken care of. The children feel safe and they're happy and content. The less childhood trauma there is a better future for these children and our future. And I'm talking about childhood mental development and health. And once if we focus on the children, our future is going to be much better than it is now. Because if we don't address the children's health, we're going to continue to see addictions, alcoholism, and the opioid crisis is going to continue because we have to work at stopping it at some point, and it has to start with the children. So just to end this, I'm just going to say a little, and when I'm saying, I'm going to brag a little bit about myself. I have strong work ethics. I've worked as an RN for 30 years, and I've worked in long-term care, in standoff, and in Cardston. I worked 10 years in emergency in Cardston. I worked with the schools in health promotion with Everactive Schools. I'm caring, I'm compassionate, and I'm a progressive thinker, and I have integrity. And I do believe working together, not in silos, so we can have better transition for our people. Because often the transition, if they need housing or if they need discharge planning from the hospital, there's always a break in there, and they often fall through the cracks. And the one awareness I wanted to put out there as well, while I'm talking about transition from the hospital to home. Well, what if you don't have a home? How's the transition going to happen? And if you have no place to send them to recover, because they can't stay in acute care for a long time because it costs lots of money. So they have developed this transition where they go home, and we have home care that takes care of them till they get better. But if you have a homeless person, where are they going to discharge them to? And that is a really major issue. And I thank everybody, and I hope all the candidates the best. And I just wanted to say one more thing here. I'm a very compassionate person, and I think I said that once. And I love my people. I'm a helping person. And so let's figure it out together to make a difference in our children's lives, because they are our future parents and our future leaders. Hun.
Good job, Leanne. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, folks, our next speaker is council candidate Calvin Preston Croce. And Preston is number 18 on the ballot. Good afternoon, Preston.
Good afternoon, Robin.
So, Preston, can you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and share your platform with everyone?
Sure. So thank you for having me here today in your show, Vernon and Robin. Oh, I'm getting some back feed.
Yeah, just turn down your telephone there.
Okay. Am I good?
Yep, sounds good on this end.
All right. Okay. So yeah, my first name is Calvin, after my dad. Many people know me by my middle name, Preston. So at the polls, you'll see Calvin Preston Crochief. Ni stu ni dani ku baganakapi. My name is Young Bachelor, translation. And about myself, I grew up in Standoff. And went to school off reserve in Cardston, Alberta. And that's where I graduated high school. And I learned how to, read and write. And unfortunately, I was part of the youth where our parents wanted me to learn English, because my mom and dad, who are Calvin Crochief and my mom's Geraldine Slay from Siksika, they wanted me to have an edge on society. And because they found it hard only knowing Blackfoot, they said. So that's part of what Leanne was getting at, So I'm working hard at learning our language. It's another whole saga. But I graduated from there, and I went to the University of Lethbridge, and then took a break. And while I was in high school, by the way, I joined the Canadian Armed Forces through that Bold Eagle program, hey? And that's where I learned a lot of my disciplines. And before that, I was adamant in the Cadet Corps here in Standoff. And so I took a break off school, and then I deployed to Afghanistan. About an 8-month tour, and came back in 2010 and continued on with my education. And took me a bit longer than I wanted it to be, but the young pains of being a young person, relationships, partying, you name it, and I had to grow up faster than my peers, I guess, and I got through it all, and through a lot of counseling, admitting I needed help where I needed it, and my elders, and for being there for me, telling me what I need to do, and eventually I was able to finish school and then do what I'd like to call like a spiritual growth from like the time I graduated. Even it's still ongoing, there's no stop to our spiritual growth in the world. So now I've been working for the band for the past 2 years, and after coming home, for me, I had a hard time trying to find a house on reserve. So apparently I need to have more than one kid. So I think there's a shortage for single housing units, and nowadays it's different. I look at my mom and dad's generation, and those parents stay together for a long time. And my generation, it seems co-parenting seems to be what is the reality of parents. So there is a shortage of houses. Then I decided to run for candidacy this year. My opportunity came up, and I feel I was ready to go. I have that's my career experience, and I feel it's going to be very useful to work with the other 12 people in that council chambers, making sure that our people are taken care of, and ensuring that people's voices are not being heard, and that they're heard, and I just want to work at that goal in the future. So when with my platform now, I kind of got 3 major points: job creation being one, youth, and addictions. Addictions is and I'll kind of touch on all of them here. So within job creation, my idea is to kind of solve the social issue of housing is just to build more houses. After looking at economics, a lot of the social science of it is you judge a community's growth by the number of houses it has. And, I'm 32 now, and Standoff hasn't really grown from when I was a kid. And same with Laverne and Moses Lake. And we got some more houses on the countryside, but it hasn't really grown that much. So I think it'd be good to have more housing lots allotted to the tribe and to build more houses. And that would go with infrastructure improvements, water and sewer, and if at all possible, try to get some houses that are in the countryside, some more hooked up to the water pipes, so that way they're not relying solely on cisterns for water. And I want to keep our officers accountable. I see it where contractors come on reserve and, they're excellent tradesmen, but yet, I kind of wonder how come none of our own people who've been working for these contractors, how come they're not qualified people? They should be able to provide, those red seals or gold seals. I'm not a tradesman, but that's one area that I believe would assist with that job creation goal for our people. And then that'll promote that kind of that small business, people can be plumbers and carpenters. And so making housing more affordable. I when I lived off reserve, I was paying like $1,200 rent plus lights, gas, utilities, cable, internet, and then still trying to buy groceries on top of that. It got tough. It's stressful. So, if we make our housing, affordable, for our people's rents and mortgage payments, whatever avenue they choose to go through, that'll help out with their monthly living expenditures. And again, they'll be able to have some social time with their children and family. And on my platform, I put down the cultural center, and I think our reserve does have a cultural center. But I would like to know what the aim of that cultural center is, what the purpose is, and who can use it. And when I think of cultural center, I think that we could host an event there. Artists can hang up their artwork and host like a show and be inviting arts and craft vendors, that kind of thing, or just another channel to visit elders. Youth. So for the youth, our community needs more playgrounds, and playgrounds are important because our youth, I guess they don't really understand how to manage their emotions the way we do as adults, but for the largest part, they can play on a playground. They're not realizing they're exercising, they're having fun, they're forgetting about, whatever's going on at home, and they get to enjoy that, at least that 1 hour out of their day playing with their friends and having fun. Our playgrounds, I think they're gone now. They start construction at Red Crow, that playground's gone. And in all the schools since the COVID, so all the playgrounds got shut down too. So it'd be nice if there was more playground options for the kids, and that'll increase their happiness through fun and play. And so a skate park, I think there'd be a really use for a reintroduction of the skate park. I remember growing up in Standoff, we had that wooden ramp, we called it. And it burnt down, but that's unfortunate. But, there's really good skate parks I've seen in Lethbridge, and a lot of our youth are over there having fun on the skate park. I know parents who get in their vehicles and take their kids to Lethbridge to enjoy that part. So I do believe the reintroduction of skate parks would be very beneficial to our communities. And youth camping trips, I remember growing up, I'm fortunate that I was my parents and family are big into the blood Sundance, right? And so when I would go to other reserves, they have cultural camps. Even when I did the Bold Eagle, they had like a cultural camp. It lasted a week before we did our Army training. And, that's unique to see other tribes across the country. They do cultural camps. And, not everyone's into Sundance and stuff, but you know what? Just even letting the kids enjoy what it's like to sleep in a teepee and, sharing stories and, Nisitapikwek, so they know where they're from. And spray parks is another one I've noticed in the communities that just kind of popped up. Those are very nice. They attract a lot of families. I see young parents like myself bring their kids there, and kids can enjoy it's a park too. So it's just another way to get our kids more outdoors, to battle what's going on with our iPad generation coming up, and that they can play outside. So then for the addictions, I have that on my platform. I understand that there's a core group involved. I think those guys, the men and women, are doing an amazing job at handling our addiction crisis, and I just want to commend them for it. I don't hear of any more overdose deaths. Nowhere it was in 2014, 15. So there, I put down counseling. I think counseling is kind of like overlooked in this mix. A lot of our people, they do, like what Leanne said, they want to have that happiness. But I do believe that through counseling, we got to help our people realize that they got a problem, and then hopefully they'll make that step to get better. But it's just they don't know that yet. So, we just got to be patient with them, and eventually it will work. So then, of course, the detox center, treatment center, and very importantly, the aftercare program that just started up at the transition center. All these can be better utilized. It's just our people have to be managed through that, and I think through the counselor that can happen. So again, when you go to the polls, to wrap up, when you go to the polls on the 19th, advanced polls, and for the main election day in November 26th, number 18 on the ballot, Calvin Preston Crow Chief, vote for him. I'm the only Crow Chief on the card, so vote for that Crow Chief. My grandpa's Charlie, the war veteran. So there you go, Calvin Preston Crow Chief on those 2 dates. Thanks.
Good job, Calvin.
Good job, Preston. Good coordination, Vernon. Okay. All right, folks, our next speaker is Chief Roy Fox. Chief, can you unmute your microphone?
I'll send you a notification there, Roy. It should appear on your screen.
Okay.
Okay, Roy, you're good.
Okay, can you hear us, Roy?
Hang on a sec.
We can hear you. You're good.
Anya.
Yep. Iksakapi.
Good afternoon.
Nikso kwa ka kano. Nisto ako kumakinima. O kya kitkonak sumatsim po. Ano ka ksis tsikwe. Tsiksini tsispa an khamo kan sta kutu po nakuksi po sinanan ksis tsikwe. Amokse ikskay suksi po ki Mitä kutsi pojamus niistä ske nokkistotsispinna na nokkissostui. Okin se kääni tsispanisto käänä on nokkanistasta käis pinakitsina puutaksin muhnina puutaksin. Nyt se kaika kimokia ki känhuai ne dagatsi nukskaasa neekska ano haaktukskaasa siksi kinneinäiksin. Itse niistä skei kakakkuma pi kuututama pien hka amma kinniina maksiika kimatuks. Okin siksi skai kimatuhpan amoksi mohkutuks kaks ninäks maksi tumanista puutaks. Makaatusta piituut siissa. Oki kännimäissä toutumata piikaa kimo agitsi tumanista siikaks siis panistaskak kakkumaa pisaks noutui tsikatu. Sikuututama pio. Se käy nuhkitsi tännis piastaka kuakkuutsi ja ustoa. Mä tohkunuma makakkistissa. Ikä ei kuuttunut, mä pikin se kaiksi, ne se kaikaakin mä mukaan nakitspumstukatuus, niin mä kautasta piituut siis on muksi nenäks. Mukaan ei kattu tutama piuan, kuinka saaksipista keussis tohpummuutta. I kohkonaasuksiksi stopan näkannesta spummuukseni kitsiskavunnuun käännä. I kohkonaasuksiksi stopuukin muuksi eksukan ja haamuut siipuuksue. Kaaksa nouki tännistä sijo Aksneika kimo pakko takiosistokpummo. Pakapsipiaksa anniksaaksedaista paissita piopia. Haamkhetsikatsi nitsikatsaa kihpanohka iskisustuis. Okita kumanstaika kimatu. Nikso kuauka kiikakäätä pienohka maatattää ei tuhtse migne taaksaa piippui. Members of the Kana blood tribe, and of course the other candidates who have spoken already, as well as Robin and Mr. Chief Moon for setting up this virtual forum for us today. I think it's important that our membership hear what we have to say, as well as in ensuring that we protect them from the dangerous virus that is before us. I think our people have worked well in ensuring that this virus is not spread, even though it is hard to do at times. One of the important aspects of being a chief is to ensure that our council members understand and appreciate each other, so that we can collectively carry out our important duties and responsibilities. We have to appreciate each other. We have to respect our thinking. So we have been able to work cooperatively over the last 4 years, and we have turned things around towards acquiring more financial and human resources for the tribe through intelligent negotiations. One of the commitments that I made 4 years ago was to substantially increase our financial and human resources. And we have negotiated more funding from other governments in order to increase the services and programs for you, the membership. As leaders, we all strive to do more for our people. Therefore, it is so important that we have the experience and the ability to increase our own financial resources, our own source money, our own money. Together with our council and key team representatives, we have brought in additional money through dedicated negotiations with other governments, and corporations. We have successfully increased the funding from other governments to our tribe, and the agreements and settlements are based on treaty principles and government-to-government arrangements. We have earned additional money through successful negotiations with industry and the corporate sector, and have embarked on several business opportunities utilizing some of our natural resources, such as in the energy and the agricultural sector. We have ensured that our environment is protected through the development of our resources. And we have examples of our stewardship for our reserve lands. We have embarked into the alternative energy industry. We have partnered with a world-class corporation in ownership of a windmill farm on our traditional lands. They have the expertise. We acquired some expertise resourcing, financing, to be able to own a 25% interest in that mega development within our traditional lands. As well, we are working on our own wind farm right here on our reserve. And we hope to be the major owner, and we will ensure that much of the work goes to our people. I'd like to speak more about that later on, but let me go to another area. Through my chairmanship of the Indian Resource Council, I have secured $85 million from the provincial and federal governments towards the abandonment and reclamation of inactive oil and gas wells on Indian reserves in Alberta. We will properly reclaim inactive wells, inactive oil and gas wells on Indian reserves in Alberta. We will properly reclaim inactive wells on our reserve, and we will use our own members and contractors for the work that will be done. We continue to expand our irrigation project BETA, and we have turned it around to a successful business again, employing many of our members and providing profits back to the tribe. We have become the largest exporter of processed timothy in Canada, and we harvested a record forage crop of 52,000 metric tons this year. And we are selling to countries like Japan, Saudi Arabia, and others. We continue to develop our own resources with shrewd negotiations with the corporate sector and with partnerships with companies that provide expertise and financing for these important projects. And we are accomplishing these without the use of our band funds. I think that's important to remember. We have worked very hard to develop and increase our own funds, and we have increased our net financial assets, our money, to $200 million, not counting other cash settlements and agreements that are being finalized. We have devoted our own financial and human resources and secured the same from other governments towards our efforts in combating the pandemic and the drug addiction problem that many of our members suffer. We immediately contributed our own funds to our efforts, and we encouraged and forced other governments to provide additional resources, which they did, and they continue to do so. I again urge you to listen and heed the important advice that our doctors, health professionals, and emergency teams are sharing with us during these pandemic times. We need to be vigilant in preventing this dangerous virus from spreading. I am proud of the work that we have done in carrying out our duties and responsibilities for you, our membership. And again, I am humbly seeking your support to continue to be chief of our great nation. May our Creator bless and protect the Kainai Blood Tribe. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Good job.
Thank you, Roy. That was excellent. So now we're moving to the next segment of our show. Robin will ask three of them a question. And Robin, go ahead.
Okay. All right, folks. Our first question is for Miss Leanne. Leanne, can you unmute your microphone? You ready? So Leanne, you talked about and you really focused on the social determinants of health. And you kind of focused in on three key things. Certainly, as we know, the social determinants of health impact a number of areas, and they're all interconnected. You talked about basic needs, food security, clean water and air, and safety and security. Under self-sufficiency, you talked about not just developing self-sufficiency, but teaching it as well. Leanne, you talked about clean infrastructure and waste management upgrades. You talked about shelter, which gives hope, and the link to addictions, our homeless people. Having a safe environment people are much happier when they're in a safe environment. You talked about beautifying our communities and having respect for each other, building pride. You talked about money going off reserve and housing. You talked about assisting with rent and mortgages. You talked about employment and economic development and bringing hope to our community and how hope brings happiness and that we need to work together. And you talked about trauma and changing through our children, focusing on childhood development and health. We need to start with the children and work together, transition, and you talked about transitioning from hospital to home and being compassionate. And then you said, let's figure this out together. Excellent. Leanne, my question to you, if you are the successful candidate in our next Chief and Council elections, Leanne, can you share with us, what are your plans to tackle, focusing on the children, and focusing on harm reduction and childhood trauma? What are your plans if you are successful, what would your plans be in those areas?
Okay, that's a great question, Robin, and thank you. Focusing on our children, as far as harm reduction and childhood trauma, I'll just talk about that. And in order, let's start here. Children, when they experience trauma at a very young age, their neural circuits in their brain develop different from a child that is very content and very supportive environment compared to one that experiences hunger, trauma through addictions like parents, and also the parents being separated from their children, like when they take the children away. That's a huge trauma. And when these children feel the trauma, they become disconnected not only from the community but from themselves. So, prevention is the key to changing addiction, to changing any addiction. And right now we have this major addiction to opioids. And it has really traumatized a lot of families, a lot of children. So the supports in the system need to be very transitional, especially if this happens to a child and their family. And families, these children, they don't want to be with other people. They want to be, even though their parents have this addiction, they want to be with them. So keeping families together is very important. And talking about keeping families together, I'm talking about also, like, for example, some of these people that have addiction and they sell the drugs, they are families too, trying to survive. So if they're trying to survive, they became, they went down the wrong path in selling drugs, but that's how they're surviving. So if we support our families and give them hope and give them different avenues, whether it's in education or housing, we have to really think about, instead of kicking them out of their house and out of our community and shaming them, we need to help them. We cannot say that we're doing harm reduction by shaming them and kicking them out of their house, and then they get displaced and homeless, right? So that harm reduction, it's not only a health problem, it's a community problem. and we have to work together to understand the harm reduction and all that it affects. It affects the teachers, because then they have their increased stress because they have children that, you know, they separate themselves from reality, and they're diagnosed with ADHD, you know. So it's like a trickling effect, and everybody gets affected. Even the healthcare system gets affected. The high dollars and that they spend on ambulance and emergency, and so it affects everything. So harm reduction and childhood trauma come hand in hand, and harm reduction in our language is gimabibits. That is what harm reduction is, and we need to start understanding and educating our frontline workers of the meaning, and we have to start communicating between departments how to manage our community and the opioid crisis and the COVID crisis, because it's very, very right in our face today, and we have to address it. And I know there's a lot of business transactions that happen behind the scenes. So I really commend Roy and everything that he's done for us in the past, and allocating funding and everything, because we really need a lot of help right now. And God bless everybody. And remember to vote Leanne Johnson Healy. Thank you.
Thank you, Leanne.
Good job, Leanne.
Okay, let's go, folks. Let's go over to Calvin Preston.
Well, guys.
Hi. Okay, Preston. So, Preston, you talked about job creation, youth, and addictions. Under job creation, you talked about building more houses. You talked about how the number of houses kind of reflects the health of our community. Good point. You talked about hooking up water lines versus relying on cisterns, keeping contractors accountable, promoting small business, and making housing affordable. You talked about a cultural center and the numerous opportunities that we could have in that center. You talked about youth, and you talked about the need for more playgrounds and the benefits of playgrounds and skate parks, youth camping trips, cultural camps, a spray park, and just getting kids outdoors. Under addictions, you talked about the core group, where we have a number of representatives from departments across our administration all working together with the mission of our opioid crisis. You talked about counseling and how that may be overlooked. You talked about detox and treatment and aftercare. So really, you talked about the continuum of care, that circle of services and all of that stuff. You know, Preston, really good points here. My question to you is, you know, we're starting to see our youth get involved in opioids at a much younger age than we ever saw before. You know, so certainly our youth are a huge priority for us. If you are a successful candidate in the next Blood Tribe election, how do you see yourself pursuing plans, and what are your plans to address some of these issues with the youth?
So some of my plans would be to, of course, build the playgrounds to start off, right? And, you know, just hearing the nice number that Roy said about $200 million, you know, like I'd say our youth, they deserve to spend a piece of that before they get into their opioid addictions, and make that a priority once I get in. You know, a lot of advocacy on their part. I don't know if our youth have a voice yet, but I can do that for them and be around that table and say, you know what, this has to be a priority. We have X number of dollars. Let's give it to the youth and get on with it and let them have fun with it. So this just advocacy on the youth part, I guess, is my answer.
Excellent. Just getting stakeholders together. Good stuff. Thank you.
Go to YouTube and upload this.
Okay, folks, let's go to our final candidate. Inima, can you turn your microphone on? Roy, you talked about our last term and working with council and how we work to understand each other and respect each other's thinking. You certainly talked about how important all those negotiations were, as they in the end they help us with more programs. You talked about the need and the ability to increase resources, to bring in additional monies, successfully increase funding based on treaty principles. That's so important. You talked about ensuring our environment is protected and the many examples that can be shared. You talked about going into alternative energy and the different opportunities there, working on our own wind farm, both on and off reserve, and how the work and the contractors would see benefit by getting employment in these projects. Then you talked about the Indian Resource Council and securing 85 million for abandoned wells, which is another employment project coming up for our community. You talked about continuing to expand BTAP and how BTAP is now providing dividends back to the tribe, revenues that we certainly use for community projects. You talked about continuing to develop our own natural resources. Doing this without the use of banned funds, trying to increase our net financial state, having worked to combat the opioid crisis and this global pandemic, and how you forced other governments to provide additional dollars. Really excellent stuff, Roy. Roy, if you are successfully re-elected as chief of the Blood Tribe, what are your additional and further plans to develop the Blood Tribe's own source revenues?
Thank you, Robin. Before I answer the question, I wanted to thank the other two candidates for the work that you do in helping our people, and as well to thank you, Preston, for the sacrifice that you have made, the ultimate decision to protect us from those forces that could do harm to our people. So thank you for that. There is a train of thought that is called sovereignty by many of our people. Many tribes, First Nations in North America are always talking about sovereignty. And we, of course, agree with that. We have always had our own sovereignty for many, many, many centuries. And so to get back to that position where we can completely control our ways, our political, our economic ways, there is a term that is called financial sovereignty. It means that before you can truly be in a position to totally govern yourselves, to control your political and economic ways, you have to be able to come up with the necessary money to do so. If we are always reliant on other governments, such as the federal government, such as the provincial government, for resourcing, we can never really truly say that we will be sovereign. They hold the purse strings. So that is why it's so important. It's so important for us to continue to try and garner our own sources through business, through negotiations, through whichever means that we can utilize. And so we've only begun again that important aspect of being tribal leaders. We have engaged into partnerships with those people who have more expertise and more finance to carry out some of the economic development, some of the business projects that we have been involved in over the last few years. We were able, as I said, to turn around BTAP, our irrigation project, and we are now, employing more people. We are making more money. Our product is sought after worldwide. And so we ought to continue to go in that direction. We've been able to utilize some of our partners' money, and a part of that involves utilizing private equity. It's a way that two parties can get together and reach some agreement, and each contribute certain things. And that is the important thing that we have used private equity for. The other initiatives that we have gone into, such as the windmill farm on our traditional lands, it cost us. It'll cost our involvement into that project $75 million. Okay, that was the initial cost, and might have gone down. We hold a 25% interest in that business initiative. Well, we're not using our own band funds again. We're using private equity. We have reached agreements that we will utilize equity in the project. And so therefore, we bring the opportunity to the table. And we also bring some expertise, some capacity. The other party also brings expertise, capacity, and financing, which is very important. So again, windmill projects, hopefully we can begin with the project on the reserve, but it is our move from the oil and gas sector to green energy, to utilizing wind as the feedstock in producing electricity. And that is what we are doing. So those are two of the initiatives. There's more. We have yet to finalize some of our negotiations with respect to claims, with respect to other agreements. And hopefully this I can continue to encourage should the membership decide to elect me again. And a bit more stuff that I wanted to do, but I think my time is up. So thank you very much again.
Thank you. Good job, Makinima. Okay, folks, those are our candidates for this evening. I think we've done a good introduction for you today. I thank all three of you, Leanne Healy Johnson, Roy Fox, and Calvin Preston Croce. Number 18 on the ballot for council, and Leanne and Roy for chief. Thank you, everybody.
Very informative.
Thank you, Robin.
Very informative.
Thank you, Vernon.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. We really appreciate it. Very informative session, that's for sure. Again, like what Roy said, thank you, Calvin, for serving on our behalf. Thank you, Chief Incumbent Roy Fox, for coming on. And Leanne, thank you for 30 years in service in the health field as a nurse. We really appreciate it. Well, that concludes our program today, guys. People have been asking when are me and Robin going to be going over our platforms, and we decided we're going to be doing that tomorrow, just me and her, because we don't want to take any spotlight from our candidates, right? Because the purpose of this show is to bring everybody on to share their platforms, and that's what we're doing to, due to COVID-19, and so everybody can be safe at home and hear everybody's platforms and make that educated decision who they want to vote for. So again, Leanne is running for chief. She's a candidate. Roy Fox is running for a chief candidate. And Calvin Preston Crow Chief is running for council. He's number 18 on your ballot. Good job. Well, that concludes today's program, guys. Thank you for joining us. You can watch the program also on YouTube. Shaw, just pick up your remote, say Blood Tribe Elections Live, or on 322 on TELUS, or on your device at YouTube, or you can rewatch the program on Blood Tribe Elections. Have a good evening, folks, and we'll talk to you guys tomorrow. See you soon.
Stay safe.
Sukati.
Good afternoon, everybody. Stay safe.
Thank you. Oops.